Hello and welcome to my channel, and this is Stephanie, and this is the December 2017 wrap-up part 1. For the month of December, I decided to do my wrap-up a little bit different. I did a vlog style in November, and you guys kind of like that one. So I decided to change it up a little bit different, being it was the last month of the year, so that maybe for 2018 I could get a sort of style that goes along with how I do my wrap-ups instead of just standing here. If you guys like this sort of version of it, where I'm doing weekly videos and then putting them together, let me know down in the comments. I greatly appreciate that. Or if you like the vlog style better, or if you like just the end of the month, wrap it up, here it is, bam. Let me know down in the comments. So I had to break this down into two parts. So this is the part 1, and this is weeks 1 and 2. Here are the books that I read for roughly the first week of December. The first book that I finished was Unexpected Arrivals by Stephie Walls. I gave this book 5 humongous, amazing stars. I read it as an ARC for an honest and voluntary review, and this story revolves around James and Cora. James receives a letter in the mail, and all of a sudden his life is thrown into this sort of tailspin, or lots of unexpected events start to happen. Cora is his wife, and you find out more of her story once the story goes along, or once the book goes along, probably about the 50% part mark that you start to hear about Cora. There is a lot of background that goes into this book, so it flashes back to find out their history, Cora and James, and what sort of led them up to these moments in time that are unexpected arrivals. It starts off with a huge bomb, and you're just kind of thrown for what to expect out of this book, and I loved every single moment of it. And it's a journey of epic proportion. I mean, like, seriously, for a standalone book, this book just takes your heart and it grabs it, and then it wrings it out, and then you're like rooting for these people or these characters, and you just don't know what to do with yourself. I loved every single minute of it, and there's so much that is revealed and so much that makes you really think throughout the book that just, it was great. It's about love, it's about loss, it's about friendship, it's about finding yourself and self lessons, and it's just an overall amazing book. That's Unexpected Arrivals by Stephie Walls, 5 humongous stars. The next book that I finished was Scrappy Little Nobody by Kendrick. I listened to this book on audiobook, and oh my goodness, I loved Anna Kendrick when I first really saw her in Pitch Perfect, although she was in other movies and stuff like that before this. But when I saw her in Pitch Perfect, I thought she was the funniest, one of the funniest comedians out there right now, and she's young and she's just super funny. And then I listened to this book on audiobook, and she narrates pretty much her story. It's all about her, giving us little bits and pieces of her life. It's a collection of essays that's narrated by Anna, and I loved it. I love her even more now, and there are so many things that I knew she was in but didn't really realize that she was in, and her comedic timing with telling her own story is absolutely hilarious. The fact that she supposedly changed the names of some of the people that were involved as to not hurt feelings, it was just hilarious. I found myself laughing out loud about it, and I just love her more. I can't wait for Pitch Perfect 3. I will be so heartbroken when it all ends, but it was great. Alrighty, the third book that I have finished in the first week of December was Sexcation by Heidi McLaughlin, and I listened to this book on audiobook because I found it in my library's Hoopla Digital, and I'm so excited because I had wanted to read this book since I met Heidi again at Indies Invade Philly in 2017, which is when I purchased this book. Here is the book right here, and it's so pretty. I love it. I love it. I mean, it's a hot guy on the front, course I'm gonna love it. But then I listened to this book, and this book has 2 narrators for the 2 characters that are in this book. And yes, it is a little predictable, but at the same time, I really enjoy the characters. Jade and Jackson, they go on this vacation. Jackson is British and Jade is American. Both of them go to Bermuda, I think it is. And they just want to have a week. Just take a week and no real names, no real parts of their lives, and just have a sexcation. Yes. It's sweet, it's very relatable, it's sexy, and it was I would definitely put this into the Guilty Pleasures beach read because, yeah, it was. That's exactly what it was. I give this book 4 stars just because of the predictability of it. Some of the cards started to show before the actual reveal came, but that's okay because, like I said, it's a guilty read. It was yummy goodness. The next book that I read was The BIKER'S, A Virgin by Michelle A. Valentine. And this was an arc and on an involuntary review. And I give this book 4 stars as well. This book is quick, it's fast, it's sexy. Ugh, yes, yes. I'm not a real big Motorcycle Club book romance reader, so I haven't really read very many of them. But if the other ones are like this one, then I think I need to dive in because it gave me little bits and pieces of Sons of Anarchy, but at the same time it kept it sort of light and sexy. I mean, it deals with a club leader's daughter that needs to be kidnapped and the guy that's supposed to kidnap her, and yeah, all kinds of fun. All kinds of fun. I definitely loved the quickness and the just being of it. This book is actually on my TBR list, and you guys should have seen that I was going to be trying to read this. I wasn't even sure if I was on the ARC team or able to receive the ARC, but I did, and I totally enjoyed it. Like I said, The BIKER'S Virgin by Michelle A. Valentine, 4 stars. The next book that I finished in the first week is The Heart of Betrayal, which is the Remnant Chronicles book number 2 by Mary E. Pearson. I listened to this on audiobook, and I give this book 4 stars. This book, or this series, took me a while to jump into for book number 1. This book continues on, so if you haven't read the first one, this is maybe a little bit spoilerish, but not too much, because, you know, I try not to do spoilers here. But this book starts off where Leah and Rafe have been kidnapped, and yeah. So actually it's Leah that gets kidnapped. Rafe goes in to surrender himself so that he can be kidnapped as well, to keep an eye on Leah, and Caden is in his own sort of world. Lots and lots of new and paranormal, fantastical fantasy things are revealed, and you get to see their strengths in all 3 characters. I listened to this on audiobook with a full cast ensemble, so it was great to not just necessarily hear one person trying to voice all of the characters. Different voices filled my head, and it was like a little movie, and I really enjoyed it. And can we talk? I'm not going to talk about, but oh my god, that ending. I am going to have to get to book number 3 now. That will be happening. The next book was Demonic Illusions, the complete series by K.D. Reed, and I give this book 4 stars. This book is a book authored by one of my fellow booktubers, our fellow booktubers, if you're watching this, Kim here, and she provided this book to me as a gift, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I was a little leery because she said that it was going to be sort of a romance with horror and paranormal, and oh my god, I'm not really big into paranormal, but this book was hot, it was sexy, it was fun, it was funny, and it had all sorts of paranormal. And not your regular vampires and werewolves paranormal, no. Nope. You can mark those off. So if you're looking for a paranormal that is not either one of those 2 things, then go check this book out because it was fun. It did get a little spiritual, for a little too spiritual for me, but overall, it's understood why it got spiritual. I just really enjoyed this book. I thought it was fun. It was sexy and all that stuff. So I gave it 4 stars, and I definitely recommend you guys go out and check that book out. So those are the books that I finished in the first week of December. Week 2, first book that I read this week was Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by Rachel Cohn and David Levinthan. And I listened to this book on audiobook. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, but I felt that being that this is supposed to be a YA story, that the characters, I didn't particularly care for the characters. They're supposed to be 16, maybe 15, 16 years old. I don't think any of them were 17, but they live in New York and they had a lot of free range. And being a parent, I'm not a free range parent. I'm not just going to let my kid, as soon as they become a teenager, just go run wild. And that's exactly what it seemed like in this story. So you have these 2 kids, and one of the kids, their parent decides to change up their traditions and go on vacation, leaving the kids alone in the city. And the other kid has parents that are just always away anyways, or they're divorced, and the parent that they live with just isn't there, period. So you have these 2 lonely kids in New York City. So it was enjoyable for its unrealisticness and the fact that it revolves around one of the characters putting a book in a journal in a bookstore, and the other character finding it, and then they're passing it back and forth, not knowing who they're actually interacting with except for what's written in the book. So that was the fun part about it. The realistic aspect of it, the fact that some of the things that happen kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And maybe I needed to take my parent hat off to really enjoy this, but this is not a book that I would want my teenager. If I had a teenager, I wouldn't want my teenager reading this book, because that would then give the assumption that these activities, underage activities, being alone, would actually be okay. And that just didn't do it for me. But like I said, I gave this book 4 stars, and that was like a hard pressed 4 stars because of those different things that I just talked about. The next book that I read was As Long As You Hate Me by Carrie, and this was an arc. I gave this book 4 stars. The reason I gave it 4 stars was because the one issue that they had within the book on the reasons why the 2 characters were thrown together again didn't rub me the right way, especially in the current day dynamic that we have. And what we have is that we have childhood sweethearts that go their separate ways. So one ends up going to California to become a rock star, the other stays and decides to go upon that part of their life, and some things happen and there's a whole bunch of miscommunication, and it just kind of drove me up a wall, kind of turned me off a little bit. But I did enjoy the overall, after it was done and over with, how I felt at the end of it. It's a second chance love story, and like I said, it just kind of rubbed me wrong on why the couple was put back together or came back together or needed to be together, and that was the one thing that rubbed me the wrong way. But other than that, it was a really good book. Next, I read 2 of the short stories in the Team Player anthology, and the first story I read was The End Zone by LJ Sheen, and I give this story 3.5 stars. I received this as an arc. This story was very interesting. I've never read anything by LJ Sheen before, so I wasn't familiar with the way that she rights, but I did enjoy the story. It revolves around football, so if you like a good football story, this is a short, quick, read that you can get into. The second story that I read was Sweeping the Series by Kate Stewart, and I give this one 4 stars, and that's because it is a short story, but it had all of the wonderfulness that I always come to love about Kate Stewart in her writing. She took us back to the Balls and Play series with one of the characters that is sort of mentioned in the duet, but doesn't get a full-length novel, so they get a short story, and that is Ren and Erica, and how miscommunication somewhat plays in their sort of story, because they meet and there's miscommunication and she leaves, and yeah, it's a good, quick, fun, sexy read that I really, really enjoyed. Then I read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, and I listened to this book on audiobook. Now, before I give you my rating on this book, I actually went back and forth listening to it on audiobook. I had to speed it up for one, and I almost had to speed it up to 2 times its regular pace, and even then it seemed like it was slow. So, I don't know what I would have done had I listened to it at normal pace, because that narrator made it tough. And I wasn't feeling this story. I was not feeling this story at all. I mean, the story revolves around Lily, and it revolves around Ryle. They have a interesting sort of, it's Lily's story. So Lily grows up in an abusive home life. She has a friend that she ended up helping out. His name is Atlas, and you sort of hear her interaction with Atlas and things that they did when they were kids, but then there was some divide there and some distance that happens. And when she grows up and becomes an adult, she finds or meets this guy named Ryle, yeah. I just had issues with pretty much every aspect of the book. I mean, 2 out of the 3 incidences that happened kind of rubbed me the wrong way, as if they were accidents and not abuse. There was no mention about getting help in any way. I mean, medical help or consultation or talking to someone, getting some sort of support somewhere else. And then I finished the book and I listened to the author's note, which most of the time I usually stop it as soon as the story's over, but I actually listened to this author's note, and this author's note from Colleen Hoover is what changed my rating from a 3-star book to a 4-star book. I can't give it a 5 stars. It just wasn't enough for me to give it a 5 stars. Is it relevant? Is it pivotal for someone in an abusive relationship to maybe see that they're not going through this alone? Maybe. But there are other options that could have been done, and I have never been in an abusive relationship. However, I have had other journeys to take in similar, or a physical, abusive relationship. I've had to take a journey in something completely different. But one of the main things that I have found is that talking to someone, getting consultation, getting the medical assistance in dealing with those things plays more of a part than just doing it on your own. Do I fault this book at all? No. Am I victim bashing? No, not at all. Because that's what the author note ended up showing to me, that this was a very personal book for the author, that situations from the book happened in real life and to this author in some sort of fashion, and it is a very personal to her. You just finished watching part 1 of the December 2017 wrap-up. That included 9 books and 2 short stories. Let me know down in the comments how you guys like that format, please. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, I started a blog and a Goodreads group, so go check that out. Thank you for watching and hope to see you guys in part 2.